What's up, everybody? Welcome to our UFC 243 post-fight recap. I'm joined by Nathan Williams from Wavves. He joined me in the preview, if you tuned into that. So he'll be helping me break down all the action that went down on Saturday night in Melbourne, Australia. Pretty good card, man. I mean, we're just a few hours removed away. We talked about how, overall it wasn't the strongest card, and it wasn't on paper, right? But nonetheless, the fights delivered. They were pretty good. Would you agree?
Yeah, I had a good time.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Again, it's the whole thing that Dana White says, like, after he wasn't present, but he usually goes like, oh, you can't judge a fight until they're over and whatnot, and it's kind of true, but kind of not at the same time because you do want to see some stakes, some fights that carry some weight. These didn't, but nonetheless, they were pretty exciting. So we're going to work like usual from the top to bottom, work our way down from the card. Main event, obviously, Israel Adesanya defeating Robert Whittaker to unify the UFC middleweight belt. We were both split in this one. We didn't really know who to pick, and the fight was not close. I mean, it was kind of close in the first round, but it was kind of like Israel Adesanya just seemed to be in control the entire time. And after the first knockdown at the very end of the first round, it was just a completely different fight after that. Did you see this coming as like a possibility that was out there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
Like I said, it seemed like a pick'em fight to me, but mm, I uh, okay, maybe not. I guess I said yeah, maybe I saw it coming, but the honest truth is, I don't think anybody thought it would be that easy. It seemed
Yeah.
like it was a cakewalk, right?
It seemed to be one of the easiest fights he's had in the UFC. I mean, he had more issues with Marvin Vettori and obviously Kelvin Gastelum.
He had more issues with the Brandon, not Brandon Tavares. What was the dude's
Brad
name?
Tavares.
Brad Tavares. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, that was one of his more dominant performances, but yeah, still, like, it was ridiculous. He did not really get hit all that much in fighting a very accurate striker. It was just a crazy performance, and I think he's a little, he even says it himself. He says he's a little petty, and he's always kind of like making fun of the haters, like, oh, I got no knockout power, I got pillow hands, this and that. And I get where he's coming from. Like, I feel like people do underestimate him. I don't know how your circle of friends that watch fights, you know, how they view him. But I had people text me, obviously not MMA media people, but just friends that like to watch fights, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, this guy's so cocky," and there were, people don't really, a lot of people don't really like Adesanya all that much, and they do doubt his skills. But I think part of that is just because he gets so good in between fights that it's just like, dude, we're judging you based on your previous fight, and you're looking like a completely different fighter right now.
Um, I think if you're that good at anything, you're gonna have people that hate you and love you. Like if somebody really like we were saying earlier, he is at the point now that like superstardom where like there's no way that he's not going to have people that hate him. But I will say that he has turned a sort of a corner on being obnoxiously cocky. I think. Like I
You dig
wanted
it?
him to win.
Uh huh.
I I don't know if I like dig it, but uh, I wanted Bobby Knuckles to win. I don't know. I mean, I felt I hoped it would be even just closer. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even close.
No. It seemed that was a start-making performance right there for Israel Adesanya. I mean, it was clear that, obviously 60,000 people in the stadium. UFC 243 seemed to be trending. A lot of people seem to be talking about it. We talk about, like, him possibly being the biggest star in the UFC, like, at least active. Obviously not counting Conor McGregor. How much truth is that? Like, how much of a star do you think Israel Adesanya can become here?
Um, he can definitely become a crossover star. There are parts of it with the post fight thing. and even leading up to it, where he would he started to sort of say the same lines over and over again. Though, like, I was in the nosebleeds, now I'm gonna make his nose bleed. It's like, all right, like, I don't know, but I don't think. I mean, I don't know. If we're going off of like social media numbers and that sort of thing, he can be a gigantic star. But I don't think he's now, after we've now got to know him a little bit better, I don't think he's got the star quality that somebody like Connor has. I mean, I know those are going to be the comparisons, but I don't even think he has the star quality that somebody like Masvidal has. Masvidal's just got this thing that is, you want to listen to him talk. He's like sort of funny. Adesanya doesn't really have the gift of gab in that way, but must-see TV for his fights, for sure. The like whole dancing coming out to the cage and stuff, I thought it was a little cheesy, but I mean, it's amazing to watch him. It's like watching somebody play a video game. It's like Tekken or something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very much his style. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder. I mean, can he be bigger than John Jones? Like, what do you think? Like,
no,
really. To me, watching that performance, like, and I'm not, bashing on people who like cry in post-fight interviews and like thank all their teammates and kind of just have that sort of raw emotion, but like the way he handled himself post-fight, that was like, to me, like star, like that to me just came across like a huge star. Like it to be in that moment, to beat Robert Whittaker, who's so good, like that, in that way, given all the things he said in the lead up, right, the big moment and everything, and yet he was handling that like, some like the dance prior to the fight, like it was something that he already had in his mind, and he already like knew what to say and like what to throw out there, which is crazy because it's like you often talk to fighters and they're just like, oh no, I'm just focused about the now, and then once the next step comes, I'll focus on that later, or then. But he just seems to be a step ahead, and that to me is something that's only people that are like superstars and can cross that sort of boundary have that. Like Conor McGregor, right? That's what the whole Mystic Mac thing came about. But yeah, it was a huge victory. Very, very impressed skills wise, the way he handled everything. Where do you think he goes next? I mean, it seems Paulo Costa is the obvious fight, right?
Yeah, Paulo Costa, obviously.
Yeah.
It seems like the obvious thing. And Paulo Costa set himself up as such a good heel. I mean, he's like, oops, here we go. He's, I like to dislike him. He's, everything around. Yeah, he's a good. What, you like him?
I like him, yeah. But I might have I kind of like the heel role a little bit, so I might.
Me too, but
yeah.
I think Adesanya at some point could hit a heel turn, because he is so confident that it comes off as cocky. But like you said, like it seemed like he had everything planned out. That's somebody that is supremely confident, that they know what they're going to say when they win. Like I don't think it ever even crossed his mind that he could lose that fight. And seeing them go in there, it makes sense, because it didn't look like there was any way he could lose.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, and I'm curious to see how Paulo Costa fares against him, because like, I mean, I thought prior to Adesanya beating Whittaker, I thought Whittaker was probably the best striker there in that division. And look, Paulo Costa is a good striker, but he's not as refined as a Whittaker. So I wonder if he can make that up with just power and heart, because he definitely has that. But that's going to be an interesting test. I mean, Jared Cannonier is also out there. A few other names. Even John Jones is coming after Adesanya. Definitely, we could safe to say the move is Paulo Costa for sure.
It's got to be. Yeah. I like that he shouted out Jared Cannonier.
Yeah,
that's
nice.
Cool. Somebody give him some recognition. I think he deserves it. But Paulo Costa seems like there's already a built-in sort of rivalry there, and that seems like the next logical step.
Yeah. And you wouldn't even be in for an immediate rematch with Whittaker? Is that your gonna think?
No. I mean, no. I think maybe Whittaker just needs to sort of get his bearings, but there were some similarities I mean, I know we'll eventually talk about this, but the Hooker Iaquinta fight,
Yeah.
like it seemed like Iaquinta, whatever, and Whittaker both sort of had the same sort of problem with closing distance and just more refined pinpoint accuracy of these guys. Like something is in the water at what is it, City Kickboxing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those guys are fucking. Those guys are killers.
Something's going on there for sure. I mean, that's one of the best camps we've seen this year, at least a camp that's had some of the best results. I mean, you look at just Dan Hooker, right? You look at what Israel Adesanya is doing, and they have a few other guys as well that are doing quite well. Yeah, I mean, and let's before we move on to the other fights, let's just quickly talk about this whole John Jones Adesanya beef. Like, are you into it? Are you digging it? Because like, I can see that as a potential fight, but I notice a lot of people are talking about it as in it's in the near future, but I think that should be way down the line, if anything. Like, Adesanya has a lot of work to do at 185.
I like the idea of it. I like that they're talking about it. It's like a fun wrestling angle, but it doesn't seem very realistic to me. And if I'm John Jones, I'm thinking of, after a fight or two, moving up.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime I say anything about Adesanya or anybody, whether it's fans or whether it's like we talked about, the sort of MMA media narrative, he seems to prove everybody wrong. So I don't know. Who knows at this point? But it's not something that's, what is it, a catch weight, or is Adesanya going to go up?
I think it has to be 205 probably, yeah. I don't think John Jones can go any lower than that.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Not something that I'm super interested in personally, but I like them going back and forth and taking shots at each other. I mean, that's fine. Paulo Costa seems like the fight, though.
Yeah, and that to me, the Jones Adesanya fight seems to be like a huge fight. Obviously, I mean, 205 at this point, there's not that many big names, so for Jones it makes sense to fight somebody like Adesanya, right? But I don't think it makes sense for Adesanya just yet, and I think you can take those type of risks once you're already solidified, kind of like a John Jones and a fighter of that stature. But if you're on the come up, man, you got to do things right. And so far, Adesanya has been doing things right. So I hope he stays at 185 because I think that's definitely the move. So yeah, go ahead.
Why do we like? He just won the belt.
I know.
Why is the narrative already to go to lightweight? And like, what can we just have a couple of guys that are just going to stick into, like, let's just fight in our divisions for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also it's like you said, he just won the belt, and I mean, we're talking about it because Jones is talking about it. If he weren't talking about it, then I don't think there'd be much chatter. But the fact that John Jones is coming after him, I think that's why people get all excited for that.
I think John Jones mentioned it. This is my theory. I think John Jones mentioned it sort of on the heels of the Frank the Tank drama, when he started tweeting at Ariel and people like, hey, I've got the dirt on whatever I think he's sort of just trying to change the narrative and like, hey, talk about this instead.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's possible as well. But I mean, he's called him out even prior to the whole Frank Lesnar thing.
Yes.
So I really do think he thinks that's a winnable fight for him. I think obviously the size advantage has to play there a huge role. And it's probably the biggest fight he can get his hands on because the Cormier fight just slipped out, right? Brock Lesnar's not coming back. I think the biggest star after that, it has to be Adesanya. But I think that's way down the line. So,
did you see Lesnar and Kane on?
Yeah, I saw whatever clip they rolled out on Twitter. I don't really watch pro wrestling. Did you?
All right, whatever.
Were you watching the whole thing?
Of course I did. Yeah. I watched it. I thought it was. I thought it would be great because now WWE has direct competition, legitimate competition with AEW.
Yeah.
I thought it would be interesting if you have this feud in the WWE, bring Dana White into the WWE as a character, and have them finally Kane and Brock run it back.
I'm like whatever
No,
about it. I did ask when I saw Kane in Mexico, and the media got to ask him a few questions. I asked him about the Brock fight. I'm like, would you be interested in wrestling Brock Lesnar? And he's like, yeah, I would. But The Rock is like my dream matchup. And then things are, I think that picked up some. I don't know if there was already conversations prior to that, but it just seemed like a no-brainer. I mean, it was
show
a big
up at
fight
Madison
in
Square
MMA.
Garden.
Yeah. So
And
I
you
don't know.
can see The Rock there with the BMF title, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. That's what they say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the co-main event. We were discussing how like we kind of knew who Iaquinta was, whereas Dan Hooker we didn't really know a whole lot about him. I mean, we did know a good chunk about him, but as far as like his ceiling, we still didn't really know how high that was. And I think this fight was very telling. If he would have taken a loss here, you go, you also lost to Edson Barboza, right? It seems you're having difficulty with the kind of like the getting close to the top 5 guys. So this was a big fight for him, bigger than a bigger moment for him than for Al. How do you think he lived up to the expectations and the moment?
He stuck to his game plan. He looked just pinpoint striking again. Good game plan from the get with those oblique kicks or low leg kicks or whatever. Yeah. It completely changed the trajectory of the fight. And Iaquinta, like, he needs to close that space, and he needs to do it quickly with somebody that is that much taller, that much rangier, and he just didn't even give him the option. There were a couple of moments where Al put some stuff together, but overall, it seemed like a cakewalk, right? Like for main and co-main, it didn't even seem close.
Yeah, I mean, he got a 30-27, 30-27, 30-26.
30-26.
Yeah, so it was complete dominance, and, Al is tough as shit. I think a lot of people leaving that fight, I think, a lot of people, took that away from the fight. Like, yes, Dan Hooker's very, very good and definitely a threat at 155. Al is tough as hell, and he will always be tough as hell. I mean, he was always game. He was always trying different things and fighting through the leg kicks and all this other things. So very impressive stuff from Al. But, man, I'm super impressed with Dan Hooker. I think, it wasn't like a crazy performance, but he stuck to his guns, as you said, and he looked technical, and that's what top 5 guys do, Yeah, super impressive stuff. So as we know, like in the post-fight mess, he didn't really have much of an interview. He kind of just threw something out there and dropped the mic, obviously calling out Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier didn't seem too fond of that call out and kind of just brushed it off. What do you make of that whole scenario? Because I'm not gonna lie, as soon as he said that, it kind of had a little bit of a ring to it.
I liked it, and I liked that he called his shot. It was short and sweet. He said it, and I don't think Dustin's gonna get that fight. Honestly, I don't think Dustin is getting the Irishman. I think that Conor is going to show up at MSG, and he's going to look to fight Nate or Masvidal, even though Dana has said multiple times he thinks that Masvidal is too big for him. I think that just makes him want to fight him more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. At this point, it's like, I just don't feel confident saying that anyone's going to fight McGregor, really. Because I'm not even sure if McGregor's going to fight again. So it's like,
he is.
Probably, but I mean, can you say for certain?
Yes.
Really? I mean,
I'd bet my mortgage on it.
Okay, nice. I definitely see him coming back, but again, it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. It's his whole hiatus from MMA has dragged so long that I don't, there's been so many teeth fights and potential matchups, right? With the Cerrone one, even Iaquinta was at one point offered, Justin Gaethje, right? Like all this stuff, Anthony Pettis, you just go down the list. It's just like, oh, it gives me a headache just thinking about it. To be honest, I think for Dustin Poirier, I think this is actually a good fight. I like this fight for both guys. I think Dan Hooker needs somebody like Dustin Poirier. And look, if Dustin Poirier doesn't want a long road back to the title, you beat Dan Hooker, who just looked like a killer. You might be a fight away from fighting for the belt again. I don't know. How do you feel
I think
about
it's a
that?
great.
Yeah.
I think it's a great fight, but for both of them, I think it's a main event fight
Yeah.
for either of them. I like the idea of doing it in New Zealand. I don't know when that card is that he was asking about, but
Yeah.
that's a fun fight.
Yeah. I'm all for it, and I think it makes sense. In a perfect world, I'd love to see Poirier versus McGregor. I think that's a fantastic matchup, but I don't think there's much for McGregor there. I think, you know,
You think so?
I mean, he beat him already. He
That's what
knocked
you
him
would.
out what in the first round, and Dustin
Oh no,
Poirier is not
I
that big
agree
of a
with you.
star.
I don't think that's I don't think that's the fight, right? No,
Yeah,
do people really want to see that run back?
I want to see it because I think it could be a different fight. I don't think it would go as easy. McGregor would have an easy time as the first time around. I mean, McGregor has kind of like stayed on his level, and clearly we've seen Dustin Poirier just reach a new level with his game. So I'd be curious to see how that goes. But that's just like me from a standpoint of being like an MMA fan, right? Like a hardcore MMA fan, not really. Again, with McGregor, there has to be some sort of narrative, and there has to be the a big fight feel, and I think the BMF title holder can give him that.
Let me ask you this real quick, sort of. I mean, not really off topic, but the Frankie fight doesn't really interest me either because, like you said, like we sort of do. We've come to enjoy these sort of feuds
Yeah,
that Connor has. What fight actually is interesting for Connor at this point? Not like if I'm Connor, it doesn't make any sense to fight these guys that you snuff in the first round because, like you said, like how are you going to do it any
yeah,
better? You're not.
yeah,
Even if you beat him, you're not going to do it any better. So if you need to just, he hasn't won a fight since 2016. You need to just get back in there and win a fight.
yeah.
But from a fan's perspective or from an MMA journalist perspective, in your case, what's the fight?
I think it has to name obviously matters, but I think also momentum matters as well. I thought, for example, when Donald Cerrone was in that crazy streak, I thought that it made perfect sense. Like, look, you
Should have taken
need
that
you
fight. That
need
was the
a
one.
good matchup, like a favorable matchup, right? Like not a stud wrestler. Okay, Cerrone can give you that. Cerrone has a big name. Okay, he can give you that fan-friendly style. All right, he can put an exciting fight with you. And he's got hella momentum right now, so you can steal that if you get the victory, right? Don't get me wrong, fighting Dustin Cerrone is super tough. You could potentially lose that for sure. But nonetheless, I think most people could agree that he would have good chances, maybe, in that fight. So I thought that was a perfect moment for him. But at this point, with the losses that Cerrone has had, I don't think it makes sense at all.
Not anymore. And you don't want to fight Gaethje now. I mean, that's a scary
That is
fight
a
for
scary
him.
fight, but at the same time, it's like, bro, you're in the UFC and you're trying to get immediate title shots. You got to beat guys like Gaethje. So I think the Gaethje one is a good option. Or, I think the trilogy with Nate Diaz has to happen at some point. So I like that, win or lose against Masvidal.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or
I'm with you
even
there.
against Masvidal. I mean, it seems there's something there a little bit. So we'll see. And also, God knows what's going to happen with the winner of the BMF title. I mean, those two guys are stars right now. Wait till November 3rd, and then we'll see where those guys are at. Because I mean, like you said, The Rock is going to be there. It just seems like it's going to take whoever wins to the next level.
If Jorge Masvidal wins impressively in fantastic fashion at Madison Square Garden, is he a bigger star than Israel Adesanya?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
I would say so. Yeah.
They're the top two probably at
I
this
think
point,
so.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that'd be interesting to see how it goes. But I know we've deviated a little bit from the topic here. If it's not Dustin Poirier because he doesn't seem too fond, is there anyone you'd like to see him fight? Any fight that makes sense out there for him?
For Dan Hooker,
Yeah.
I have to look at the standings now. I mean, that's a big jump for him from what was he, 15th or 13th or
Yeah.
something? Iaquinta was
6.
5th, 6th.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory? Who's top 5 right now?
So I don't like to look at the rankings all that much because I think they're a mess and the UFC doesn't even follow them. So, but the top 5 right now is obviously Nurmagomedov champion, number 1 Tony Ferguson, 2 Dustin Poirier, 3 McGregor, 4 Justin Gaethje, 5 Donald Cerrone, 6 Iaquinta, and then the list keeps going on. And then they haven't
What
updated
what what's
obviously. Hooker was at
what's
15.
7? What's 7 to 10?
7 is Paul Felder, and then
That's a fun fight.
it just doesn't seem like a. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a.
Doesn't make
up.
sense.
Yeah.
If you're Hooker and you can't get the Dustin fight, do you wait?
No, I think given the momentum that he has, you want to continue that. You don't want to.
But you're not going to get a top 5 guy. That's a logjam.
Donald Cerrone's technically in the top 5. I think that'd be a good fight for him and can put him.
That's a fun fight. That's not bad.
Can put him over for sure. I also think look, the rankings don't hold that much weight. I mean, at least in my mind, they hold some weight, but they're not everything, right? And I mean, the UFC has been responsible for that. But look, if Anthony Pettis drops down to 155, I know he's technically ranked lower than Iaquinta, who he just beat, but nonetheless, it's still a big name, and I think that's what matters here. You put in, 2-3 big names together, and all of a sudden you're right there.
I like the Cowboy fight. I didn't even think about that. That's a good fight for Hooker. That's a scary fight for Cowboy in my mind, but that's a winnable fight for Dan Hooker.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one as well. And look, Donald Cerrone would be all for it. I mean, that guy has never turned down a fight against any young up and comers. So yeah, I think that'd be the move. So let's discuss now a few other fights quickly before we move on and call it a day here. Taito Ivasa came up short. Honestly, I didn't do much research on this other guy, Sergey Spivak, but I just figured he didn't have a Wikipedia page. Taito Ivasa's fighting, in his territory. It just seemed like it was going to be a fight that was not a give me, but a tune-up fight for him. And he was coming off 2 losses. That seemed to be the move, but things didn't go his way. He got submitted in the second round. A lot of people didn't see us coming. Were you surprised?
I don't know if I was surprised. There was no way to know because we didn't know anything about this guy. He seemed to keep going back to the well on that lead leg kick, and he got taken down 5 times in the first round. Every single time from that lead leg kick, he was doing good, getting back up, pushing his way. Even there was one, maybe it was the first one, where he threw the lead leg kick. He got taken down almost in the center of the octagon, and he backed himself up, got to the cage, wall walked, got up. At that point, moral victory. Stay on your feet and let your hands go, I think. I don't know. With Taito Ivasa at this point, he's just such a fun character, but that was depressing to watch.
Yeah. It was not. I mean, this was the fight to get back on the win column. I feel like, perfect opportunity. Here's my dog. My friend's dog is snoring loud. I don't know if you can hear that.
Hey, look, guy. Good boy.
He's out cold. But
is he a good boy?
Yeah, he's a good boy. Very good boy. But it just seemed like the perfect opportunity to get back on the horse and on the win column, and he kind of just, I don't want to say he blew it, but again, those leg kicks were suspect. You get taken down a few times throwing those leg kicks, man.
Stop throwing them.
And you were shelling the guy up with your hands, so let your hands go. Stop throwing kicks. And look, credit to Taito Ivasa. On the ground, he looked a lot better than his previous fights. He was getting up from a lot of tough positions and with a big guy on top of him. And he was looking good, but I just didn't work out for him. He's only 26. That's being 19 as in the heavyweight division. So I'd like to see, because those guys fight till they're 40 and they're prime.
Yeah.
Look at Daniel Cormier, right? So I'd like to see him, again, get an easy fight. I am completely fine with the UFC kind of taking the Bellator route with him and just
Bellator that shit up
a bunch of cans and just pat his record a little bit. Let the guy get some knockouts, right? Let the guy drink some shoeies post fight. That's what we want to see. So give us that UFC. Come on.
I think before we move on, we have to at least acknowledge what was man's name? Blagoy. What was his name?
No. Sergey Spivak.
Oh, sorry.
I know what you're gonna mention.
That was the other one.
You're gonna
His
talk about
tattoo.
this, right?
Dude, what?
Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
Amazing. A polar bear ripping through a chain link fence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was more like the cage of the octagon. But yeah.
Whatever it was. It was so
dope.
good.
It was sick. And I think his nickname is like the bear or something like that. Or like the Russian
Yeah,
bear.
something polar bear. Actually, his post-fight interview was really
dope
good.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. I like that guy. And I'm a fan now. They gotta
the polar bear.
Somebody's gotta make him a Wikipedia page.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the Tapology page. He's got a Sherdog page. I think, you get a nice win in a pay-per-view event, you deserve a Wikipedia page, man. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the best tattoos I've seen in a long time. Like, that
MMA guys, I've been saying for a while with my friends that I want to make a zine of MMA tattoos.
Yeah.
And that's up there. My other favorite, obviously Brown Pride, that's up there. But oh man, I'm gonna fucking forget his name now. The Damage. What's
the
Damage?
Darren Elkins, The Damage.
Oh my god, that is.
And it's written with barbed wire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could somehow put The Damage and then like incorporate the polar bear.
Yeah.
In the Damage.
Right below it.
And then the polar bear has a tattoo that says Brown Pride.
Give him a belt, UFC champion, right there. I mean, Jesus Christ.
BMF.
Yeah, BMF. Yeah. And then there was apart from that, there was a few other fights. Again, not the biggest fights as we discussed earlier and in the preview show, like in the little preview video that we did. Anything stood out from you from this card that you'd like to point out before we call it quits here?
There was one fight I'm sort of spacing on the names because I'm a little drunk right now and hungover drunk. Drunk over.
That's the worst.
But there were two guys that went at it no,
that was Brad Riddell and Jamie Mularkey. Brad Riddell from City what kickboxing is that?
It was the first City kickboxing win of the night, right?
Yeah. That
That was a fucking great fight.
Yeah.
That was a great fight. That was the most entertaining fight of the night. I didn't see any win bonuses or what, but I hope those guys got paid.
They did. They got fight of the night. $50K, baby.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was I
remember
I was standing up and yelling.
You texted me and I don't know if it was my internet or the actual
were you behind?
Xfinity website, that I watch my televised fights on. But it was choppy and I was just basically listening to radio. So it was just the action, so I knew it was a good fight because I could hear it. I could hear the commentators.
Did you go back and watch that one?
I have not. But I did see parts here and there. So it was a good fight. I can vouch for that. Plus a bunch of little highlights came out on Twitter. I'll probably eventually watch it, in the next couple of days or so. But yeah, I heard it was a good fight.
Not a ton of action aside from that, honestly. Megan Anderson went in. I went to go grab a beer, and by the time I got back in, she had already won.
She needed that win bad, man. She needed that win bad. And
she did, but like we said on the last one, what
does it mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah, I wonder what they're gonna do with her. Look, if she's able to, because she's clearly a popular fighter. I think if she's able to put some wins together, right? Maybe they can turn her into a big contender and then fight Amanda Nunes and then have that be a big fight. I think that's a plan. But again, Megan Anderson has to win for that to be a thing. So we'll see how that goes. Definitely looked good. Looked improved, mentally looked to be at a good space, so we'll see where she goes next. I also want to quickly highlight Jake Matthews, who beat Rostam Akhman, probably the hairiest guy on the UFC roster. That was impressive. Jake Matthews, I think he has like 12 fights in the UFC, and at this point he kind of feels like a veteran, and he's only 25 because he's been fighting in the UFC since he's 19. So I remember when I first saw him fight, I'm like, yo, this guy's going to be something. And he's had, up and downs, kind of he hasn't really lived up to his hype. But I think, again, he's still so young that in the next 2-3 years. Again, it's all development. So he looked good. He looked composed. So I'm curious to see where he goes next. But certainly a good performance.
Yeah, anybody that fights Ackman should get an extra 5K for having to
deal with
the hair.
The hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean,
5K extra.
Something interesting he said, Jake Matthews was like, yo, the hair made him so much slippery, like 10 times more slippery.
Did he actually say that?
Yeah, man. I don't know how that can be possible. I grapple. I mean, I know guys that shave their legs in jiu-jitsu to escape from leg locks, you know, to be more slippery.
Slippery. He is so hairy. I've texted you this, and you didn't respond to me. I understand, but
don't even. Don't.
No, I'm not
okay,
gonna say.
right.
No, I'm not gonna say.
All right.
I'm not gonna say that. He has a literal tramp stamp of hair.
Yeah.
Like the man, it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Damon Martin from our own site had a great tweet. It was like, oh my God, he has a tramp stamp. Oh wait, no. ... Something like that. But yeah, I mean, and also like a lot of hair has to get ripped, you know? I mean, there's a lot of friction going on, a lot of combat, you know? I wonder if, you know, how
all jokes aside, it seems sure. I mean, has he ever it's like it looks like the collar of a shirt. Like he's got it like going around. The logistics of it it's actually I'm not even joking. The logistics of it are interesting to me because like you said, I've rolled with people that are hairy. I've never rolled with a bear like that. Like that is.
And people don't realize like having like a lot of hair is not good. Like I remember talking to Michael Chiesa once, and he's like, yeah, like I love my beard, but like in jiu-jitsu it sucks. Like whenever somebody tries to like sneak in a choke, they're ripping all my hair, and it's so painful. Sometimes I just give in, you know, if it's just rolling, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I wonder how the logistic work. But I mean, you it's so much hair. It's like, how do you go about it? Do you just shave it? I mean, it's just so much to maintain. You kind of just gotta let it be, I feel like.
Does he comb his back hair? Do you think he combs his hair?
No. Nah, that'd be painful as well. I think you just let it be, man. You just let it do its own thing and take its own course. And look, if you shave, it gets worse. It comes back, you know, stronger and thicker.
Let's move on.
I think with that being said, we've talked about enough man hair here, so I think we should end on this note.
If we actually had a podcast, this would be the perfect time for like what is it? The Manscape? What is the one that's on every podcast? Do you know what I'm talking about? No.
What do you mean?
All right.
Like tips for manscaping? Or?
There's like on every podcast that I listen to, there's an ad that they always do. It's like,
yeah. Like the Dollar Shave Club type thing?
Yeah.
This would definitely be a good opportunity to get
somebody needs to gift Ackman Dollar Shave Club. I mean,
this is the type of, you know, speaking from a marketing standpoint, this is the type of opportunity you'd want to, you know, get your product out there. Like, remember when Yoel Romero, I think, you know, Yoel Romero has this thing where he likes where they, you know, in between rounds for the corner to spill water on him. He does that in training. He's spoken about that openly. And I think when he fought, I forgot what dude, but he was wearing purple shorts, and then when the water fell on him, it turned dark or darker. And then a lot of people thought, you know, he pooped himself. And then I believe he got a sponsor after that because it was like a whole Twitter joke. I believe he got a sponsor from Dude Wipes or something like that.
Oh, wow. I saw Dude Wipes on Shark Tank. Great. I thought it was a really stupid idea. I was like, who the fuck would buy Dude Wipes? Yeah. Like, why don't you just get baby wipes? That's like, if you're in a touring band like that, you have baby wipes. It's just a thing that you have.
You know, I think tour, that's when toxic masculinity kicks in. You know, you don't want no baby wipes. You want some dude wipes, bro. Ha! All right. I think we've rambled long enough. So, hey, appreciate you joining me on this recap. This recap video for UFC 243. Fun stuff like always, man. You can follow Nathan at Wavves on Twitter and Instagram. And you can follow me at Danny Segura TV. There he goes. Do a backflip. There we go. Nice. All right, we're out of here. Peace.